Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are absolutely putting on our detective hats and journeying deep into one of the most rigorous ancient frameworks for human reasoning ever devised. We're exploring the foundations of inference in Dvayata logic, specifically drawing from the brilliant analytical work of the philosopher Jayatirtha in his famous text, the Pramāṇa Paddhati. If you've ever wondered how your brain takes a single, tiny clue and uncovers an entire hidden reality, you are in exactly the right place. We are going to break down the actual building blocks of truth itself. Okay, let's dive straight into this. Here is our roadmap for the investigation. First, we'll hit the core of inference. Second, the mechanics of logic. Third, space, time, and relationships. Fourth, acquiring logical knowledge. And finally, number 5, categories of inference. Pretty straightforward, right? Let's get to it.
All right, part 1, the core of inference. Before we can start using logic, we really have to define what the act of logical deduction is at its absolute baseline.
In Advaita Vedanta tradition, inference, which is known as Anumana, is not just some random mental leap. It's not a lucky guess. It is defined very specifically as the faultless knowledge of invariable concomitants, or upapati. Now, what does that actually mean in plain English? It means logic is a rigorous process of uncovering a truth that is absolutely guaranteed to be there. It's not a coincidence. It is the unbreakable mathematical coexistence of two things.
This core concept of invariable concomitants, which is called vyapti, is split into two vital halves. On one side, you have the vyapya, the pervaded. Think of this as your clue. It's the indicator we physically observe, like smoke rising up in the distance. On the other side, we have the vyapaka, the pervader. This is the hidden reality being proven, like the fire itself. The indicator, the smoke, is completely pervaded by the reality of the fire. The rule is absolute, right? Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. The indicator literally cannot exist without the reality it proves. So inference is simply the reliable vehicle that takes our mind from the vyapya we can see to the vyapaka we cannot see.
Moving into section 2, the mechanics of logic. Now that we know our terms, let's see how this builds into the exact mental machinery required in your mind to make a valid, logical leap.
According to Jayatirtha, to successfully infer something, a person actually has to meet 3 highly specific conditions in real time. Step 1, you must observe the mark, or the linga. You have to literally see the smoke and consciously recognize it as a mark of something else. Step 2, recollection. Just passively seeing smoke isn't enough to trigger logic, is it? The observer must actively remember the universal rule, the vyapti, that smoke implies fire. And step 3, identify the locus, the setting. You have to recognize that the mountain you're looking at is the exact stage where this smoke and fire relationship is currently playing out. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Dvaita logic actually separates itself from other schools of thought here, like the Nyaya school. You see, the Nyaya school focused strictly on paksha dharmata, meaning they were hyper-focused on a property existing only within a very specific subject right in front of them. But Dvaita logic zooms out. It emphasizes samuchita desha, appropriate location and time. Why? Because Dvaita recognizes that these universal invariable rules can actually stretch across completely different places and times. Logic isn't always confined to just what is right in front of your nose. And this brilliantly illustrates our third section, space, time, and relationships. Let's look at exactly how far these logical relationships can stretch. This is where you see the sheer flexibility of this ancient framework. Jayatirtha, supported by later scholars like Raghavendra Tirtha, mapped out 9 distinct types of invariable relations based purely on space and time. Let's methodically break down the first 3. First, we have things that exist in the same place and same time. Think of taste and color in a ripe mango. Where there's that specific sweet taste, there's that specific yellow color. Second, same place, different time. Our classic example, smoke and fire. They are in the same location, but there's a sequence. The fire causes the smoke. Third, same time, different place. Think astronomically here. The rising of the star Kritika in one part of the sky allows you to logically infer the rising of the star Rohini in a completely different part of the sky, simply because their cosmic relationship is fixed at that exact same time. Continuing down this path, we can also infer things across different times and different places. If you live in a river plain and you see the river flooding today, you can logically infer that there was heavy rain up in the distant mountains yesterday. Different place, different time, yet a perfect, unbroken logical connection. Or look at a relationship that is literally all time in the same place. A dropped object falling perfectly indicates the constant, unchanging presence of gravity.
Doesn't matter if you drop it today, tomorrow, or 1,000 years ago. This just goes to show that logic isn't merely about localized events, it's the universal toolkit of reality.
Which naturally brings us to Section 4, acquiring logical knowledge. Because, if you think about it, this begs a massive question. If these universal rules govern our reality, how do human beings actually acquire them in the first place? We certainly aren't born knowing them.
Well, the text outlines 3 precise methodologies for gaining knowledge of vyapti, or these invariable rules. First up is pratyaksha, which is direct perception. We simply watch the world operating around us. The second is through other layers of inference, basically deducing a new rule from a previously established rule. And the third is agama, or scripture. In this framework, texts that have been rigorously verified and handed down are treated as authoritative data sets. We can confidently pull logical rules directly from them.
So, the crucial point is, once we think we have a rule, how do we test it to ensure it's actually true? Dvaita logic gives us a fantastic 3-part stress test. Number 1, repeated observation, or bhuyodarshana. We have to see smoke and fire together many times, like in a kitchen over months or years, just to establish a reliable pattern. Number 2, absence of contradiction, or vyabhichara darshana. We must actively observe that smoke literally never exists without fire. One single exception breaks the whole rule. And number 3, and I love this one because it's incredibly sophisticated, absence of extraneous conditions, or upadhyabhav. For example, fire only produces thick smoke if the wood is wet. The wetness of the wood is the extraneous condition. We must meticulously confirm there is no hidden variable pulling the strings behind the scenes. The relationship absolutely must be pure.
Finally, let's head into Section 5, categories of inference. To round out our whole investigation, let's categorize the specific ways we can deploy this logic toolkit in our daily lives. First off, we can classify inference by cause and effect. So we can reason backward from an effect. You see the effect, smoke, and you infer the cause, fire. Makes sense? Second, we can reason forward from a cause. You see dark, heavy clouds rolling in, and you logically infer the coming effect, which is rain. But there is a really cool third category. Neither. You can infer sideways based entirely on inherent properties. For example, you can look at the physical form or texture of a piece of food and perfectly infer its hidden taste, without a strict cause and effect sequence happening. The shape didn't cause the flavor, and the flavor didn't cause the shape, but they share an inherent logical link in the very nature of that object.
And lastly, inference is categorized by visibility. Drashta refers to inferring something that is physically visible, even if it happens to be currently out of sight. Inferring a fire over a hill is drashta, because, hey, if you walked over that hill, you could physically see the fire. But then there is samanyato drashta, which is inferring something profoundly inherently invisible. For instance, deducing the invisible visual faculty of eyesight simply by the observable fact that a person can accurately identify colors. You can't see eyesight as a physical, tangible object, but logic absolutely proves it exists. I mean, this just highlights the sheer power of this framework to prove the invisible forces that govern our world.
Which brings us right to the end of today's explainer. We've traced the precise mechanics and how the human mind bridges the gap between the known and the unknown, all using the brilliant framework of Dvaita logic. It shows us that reality is deeply, profoundly interconnected, governed by universal rules that we can absolutely uncover if we just pay attention. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Look around your own life. What smoke are you observing today? And if you apply these rigorous tools of inference we just talked about, what hidden fire does it reveal? Thank you so much for learning with me today. Keep asking those big questions and keep following the logic.